Meaning we're not getting. Yeah, really good. Has been. Yeah, yeah.
So that's
That
why we
I
have
am.
our mics on.
We need a pen, Augie, I got an extra pen, if you wanna make notes.
So he's filling in for Julie.
Yeah.
So they won't squeal, is that why we can leave them on in, that one?
Well, we're gonna try that. That's what, under some great tutelage and advice. It shouldn't, it should work perfectly.
Okay.
They do all tonight, Jeff, you're gonna bring up on, your report.
Is that the?
I don't, well. So the last day will be on the count, last counts. Okay.
Brad, can we get up there? Okay. Yeah, pretty good. Again, if anybody else would like to speak, and how many cards to fill out, so you're familiar? I have one extra. We got somebody needs one in a minute.
Mhm. Some aren't. Stand for the pledge.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Go ahead and do roll call, please.
Counselor Gorley.
Here.
Counselor Coleman,
Present.
Counselor Trask.
Here.
Counselor Muller,
Here.
Counselor Gerson,
Present.
Counselor Richards, Counselor Sanchez,
That's Mayor Muller.
Mayor Muller.
That's fine. Okay, let the record show we have 5 present with 2 absent. Counselor Richards and Counselor Sanchez are out of town tonight. That said, I need a motion for approval of absence.
So moved. Second.
Motion second by roll call, please.
Counselor Gorley,
Yes.
Counselor Coleman,
Yes.
Counselor Trask,
Yes.
Mayor Muller.
Yes.
Do I get to vote?
And Counselor Gerson, did I miss you?
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yes.
Okay, let the record show. we have
Hey, this is my last day. Fire me after tonight.
Hey.
Okay.
Leave the chief alone.
Exactly.
Very good. Consent agenda.
Move to approve. Second.
Motion second by roll call, please.
Counselor Gerson,
Yes.
Mayor Muller,
Present, yes.
Counselor Trask,
Here.
Counselor Coleman,
Yes.
Counselor Gorley.
Yes.
Record show 5 ayes, no nays, and 2 absent. Approval of consent agenda. At this time, we'll do recognition of visitors, hearing of petitions. Anybody would like to come forth, be heard before council? Any order, just come on in.
My name is Joshua.
Need you to come up front here. All right,
Thank
John.
you, Blair.
I need to speak in the mic and also need name and address for the record, please.
Joshua Victor at 44004 Wiley Creek, Sweet Home, Oregon 97386. I was coming up to request something to be done about all of the RVs that are all over town and moving and shuffling around. I've just recently had one of my buildings, all of the windows busted out from somebody staying in one of the RVs. I have another one down at this side of town that people are stealing out of the houses and taking them and breaking into my places and squatting there that I've chased off many times. But I know that this isn't like an easy thing to address, but I think like the RV situation or the camping, public camping with people staying in their cars on the streets or anywhere in public, I think that is something that we can address through the city by saying, making an ordinance or something that there is no camping or no RV parking overnight or camp, something of that thing. But I know that it's getting worse, and especially down from 18th on and around that whole area, it's getting worse and worse. And like, I'd like to just see something happen for it. And you guys are the people figured I'd bring that to.
Well, we've been having discussions in last council. So would you like to jump in, Jeff, and go with that?
And as we've mentioned in the recent past, several previous meetings about RVs, we are dealing with them more and more, and we're dealing with them on a daily basis. And by we, the city and the police department.
Yeah, I know you are.
And so, actually, the city attorney, Robert Snyder, and I just met today, going over some options, whether it's amending our ordinance or, and actually, Blair and I just talked today about other ordinances that cities may have. None of them will be easy to deal with. And to tread lightly, a lot of the individuals that are associated with those, a lot of the repercussions we normally have don't necessarily impact them the way it would other individuals. So we have to be kind of aware of that and figure out things that will work.
I feel like if you tow a few of them, it'll make a very big impression. And
We have, and it cost us about $5,000 to tow each one.
but if we tow them like, so we need to maybe have somebody like, I don't know, a place to take them or a deal with like, Lloyd Rice or something like that. Because I know that they don't like taking them because then they end up with a bunch of junk. But I mean, if we can make a deal with the city to help compensate for that, allowing to do that or something. Like I said, that's something. I know you guys have been working on it, but I wanted to help try to free your hands up to try to do whatever it is that you can do to, make some sort of valuable effort to make a difference towards that.
So it is an extremely difficult topic, and we're from citywide, we'd love all the input possible to try to come up with solutions that will work. And so it's not a topic that's going to go away, but it is a topic that has to rise to kind of the top of the pile, the forefront, because of the impact.
And I know this is kind of this, I don't mean to bring up 2 points, but it's kind of on a similar note, like the people that busted out the windows or that are breaking in, they're not necessarily in the RV that's right there. I have no idea. Maybe they knew the people or whatever, but I don't know what there is that we're going to be able to do to start curbing that, but we're going to have to start doing something in our town. Google says our crime rate is 3 times the national average. You know what I mean, here in Sweet Home. And if we're talking about trying to get businesses in and trying to develop and stuff, this is really hindering. And so, like I said, I'm not, like I said, I don't have a wand or nothing, but like, I feel like we need to start bringing that conversation up or having more either committees set or something to start dealing with it. Like, because even the homeless thing that we're setting up isn't necessarily nothing towards any of this. You know what I mean? These aren't just homeless people. These are people that are, terrorizing and causing damage and causing crime, not just somebody that's not able to stay in a house. So like I said, I don't know what that is, but I would like to be on a committee, or if there is somewhere to do it or something where we can throw something out. I would like to start trying to head up like whatever we can do or help or do whatever in any way. But I know that we got to just do something, because it's like I said, I've had 3 places in this last month broken into and destroyed. I mean, $10,000 worth of windows busted, electrical ripped out of the walls, everything. And it's just like, there has to be something done. And I don't know, like I said, I think we just need to bring it to the forefront and start coming up with some sort of something. I don't know whether.
And many of these issues, if I may, are interrelated or connected. The socioeconomic aspect of some of our community plays a role, but what even plays a bigger role is unfortunately, there is a lack of consequences for a number of things that actually far exceed what Sweet Home, what we can do. There's the risk of incarceration is extremely low for most of these either ordinance violations or misdemeanor crimes. And so the deterrence aspect is waning in Oregon, and that's just the reality of it.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, if we could, like I said, I know other states have the same kind of restrictions as federally. So, and I know Oregon's definitely got some more freedom inside its laws or whatever. But I mean, if we can create any kind of something or ordinance or some sort of punishment or something to make.
Well, we've been talking about ordinances and doing ordinances, but then it comes down to the enforcement side of it. And once you have enforcement side, just like the chief says, it gets to the court system. Yeah, good luck. Nothing happens to them.
Yeah.
And we don't have control of the court system. So
like I said,
I'm open for ideas and suggestions, but it is a problem.
Yeah,
There's no question.
Yeah, that's why, and like I said, I don't know. I just would like, I don't know what either, but I will be much more of a part of it if I need to or whatever. I just wanted, like I said, that's all I really wanted to say is just
And I know these RVs are a problem. It's been an ongoing discussion, not just tonight, but in previous councils.
Yeah, I've heard it on some of your other ones too. I just, like I said, it's just, I don't know if anything, I hadn't heard if anything was coming or had happened on it, but I know like we need to move it up on the agenda is all I'm saying. But that's all.
Duly noted.
Thank you. I
Thanks for coming
appreciate
this
it.
evening. Anybody else like to come forward, be heard before council? Mr. Adams, how are you this evening?
I'm good, thanks.
Go ahead and name and address for the record,
Is
sir.
Mike still on? Vince Adams, 809 Mountain View Road here at Sweet Home. Thank you for that. Did he leave already?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you for that. So I want to expand on that just a little bit, not necessarily exactly what he's saying, but I have a suggestion for an ordinance, and it can be enforced at some point if the legal aspect will let it go or be able to do it. And that is if you park an RV within the confines of the city of Sweet Home, it must be attached to a house. What I mean by that is it must be friends or family that are staying there for a short period of time, and then they have to be gone. If that motorhome parks anywhere in this, anywhere, and it's not attached to a home, then it's automatically ticketed right there and you got to move. Now, I'm going to back up just a little bit. Here a couple weeks ago, I decided to take the granddaughters down to the skate park. And there's a motorhome parked right in front of the gate. I know what that, and he's parked the wrong way. Parked facing the wrong way. And I have a problem with that anywhere in town anyway, and we've talked about that before, no enforcement. But anyway, so I immediately called that in because I didn't like it. One, children play there, and two, it's dilapidated and it's parked right in front of the gate. So I called it in. I'd been told that they'd already tagged it, and I walked around to the other side and could see the tag then. And then I told him, call him back like 10 minutes later because the guy showed up with the dog and his bicycle. And I thought that'd be a great time for somebody to come and make physical contact because I don't know if they had or not. So I called back, said, hey, the guy's here. You guys might want to send somebody down here to make physical contact. About a half hour later, we left and we hadn't seen anybody make physical contact. Next day, he was gone. He was right down the street about 3 blocks in front of another house. Same motorhome, but he was parked on the right side of the street. I'll give him that. But he only went 3 blocks. But he's not attached. He's not a member of that family. He's not visiting. So let's look at that. Let's look at an ordinance that's going to nail this down. I think it could be done. You're not violating anybody's rights. And that's the other problem we have is violating people's rights. Well, what about my rights as a citizen? I'm a productive citizen in society. The gentleman that was here is a businessman. You know, 10 grand out of his pocket for windows and stuff that was taken. Nothing. Now, we understand that you don't have control over the courts. You cite and release, or they go to jail and they're out in 24 hours. That's a whole nother issue that you guys don't have any control over. That needs to be taken up somewhere else. But what I'm looking at is right here in our town. This isn't what I came to talk about, but he kind of charged that one up for me.
Correct me if I'm wrong, Blair. Just, I don't have it memorized. We do have an ordinance in place. And is it 4 or 5 days? 5 days?
So for RVs,
RVs and.
that's for occupied RVs that are, right, an occupied RV, you're not allowed to live in it without a permit.
Permit, and you can't have it in front of residents or on a residence for more than 5 days.
For when it comes to whether it's parked in the right of way, that goes to the same parking rules that would apply to anybody else. So you can park for 48 hours, Chief, I believe, without before you have to move it to somewhere else. The problem there, of course, is that you don't have to move it very far to get out of that. So all you have to do is move it maybe a car length away, and it's still technically moved.
And then it comes down to enforcement. We have one enforcement officer, and he's already stretched thin. Well, we've had discussions with him about what we do with the enforcement department too. So it's kind of we're in a catch-22 right now with that, but.
And are we still understaffed?
With the police department,
Yeah.
we're up to full staff. We just have the training aspect to go through. We have 3 individuals in the academy right now and 1 set to go in a month or so.
So moving on, I actually came in to speak about was speed again, but that's gonna go back to your staffing and whatever. But I was sitting out, or I wasn't sitting, we were actually doing some work in the yard this afternoon, just a couple hours ago, 45 up to the school zone. 45 up through the school zone. Okay, and saw it on the reader, and she never slowed down. But it's both ways. We only have that set up one way, but I know they come up there fast from the other direction. The only time recently, and I'm off certain days of the week now as I rotate, was the first day of school when I left to go to the other side of town to take my granddaughters to school. There was an officer sitting there at the church parking lot, I believe, when I left the house. And from what I was told, he actually nailed 2 cars coming up in there on day 1 of school. But then I don't know if that was a courtesy deal or if it was just because it was the first day of school or whatever, but it's like a racetrack up there and we've been down this road before. Elm Street's the same way. I have people come up behind me because I use Elm Street quite a bit. All. And I make it painful for them. I'm doing the speed limit and a little bit less maybe depending on how crowded the cars are. But I don't see, and I was looking up the logs recently. I can't find it now because I have trouble with my phone. Where things are at. But I was looking at some logs here the last few days when I could find it, and I don't really see the locations are not in places where I would like to see those locations of some of that stuff going on. Usually you're getting people with warrants out, you're tagging them that way, and it's usually on the main drag, sometimes maybe on Long Street down in the business area or something, but I don't see anything from the other streets in town in those logs that I was looking. I was trying to pull that up today or just a little bit ago and I can't find it in my phone. It's lost. But the point I'm trying to make is I don't think we're getting the biggest bang for our buck because I don't see, and I don't, again, this is my opinion. I'm not trying to rag on anybody. I'm just trying to point something out that I see as a citizen who's productive within this community. So I thank you guys for your time. I appreciate you listening to me, and I'd like to see something improve moving forward. Thank you.
Thanks for coming.
Mr. Mayor, because of the comments that have been said, I had a couple of questions. So I've noticed that log trucks don't park on the streets. And it's always been that way because they're commercial, they're big. If log trucks don't park on our side streets, I don't know if there's an ordinance that's preventing that. Is it just something that we don't do? Am I mistaken by that? And is it because of a motorhome, say, the size, the height, the girth, all of that, put that in a different classification from your typical truck and car, that we could go ahead and look at any kind of language that would prevent them from parking on the street, on our side streets?
You say you haven't seen any log trucks in this?
No, they're normally in people's side yards or something. It's been a long time. I just don't remember them typically parking on the street in our residential neighborhoods. Do you?
Oh, yes, there's plenty
Okay.
of log trucks on the streets.
On the street itself?
Yes,
Okay.
I passed 4 of them tonight going home
Did you?
on the streets, on side
Okay.
streets and on main streets. Back in the day, in the 70s and maybe the 80s, we used to have signs up through the avenues and around that said no log trucks allowed on the upper streets. Somewhere down during the time frame that got removed and changed or whatever. Not during my time, but so now it is allowed. So log trucks are allowed on all the streets. But they are up there now. I've seen quite a few.
Okay. Because I don't live up in the normal avenues and I do remember the signs.
There's
And
2 of
so-
them on Elm Street tonight.
Okay.
Passed.
And Mr. Mayor, if I may, that loaded log trucks are not allowed in those areas.
Both
shouldn't
too.
be.
It used to be even on some of the main drags, even just log trucks, period. I'm sorry. Yeah, go ahead.
A little history behind that. Years ago, log trucks were privately owned. They were owned by the companies and they had truck yards. So just like you, me, or a lot of us here, we drive our car to our work. We pick up our rig if we're using a company rig, and then we go out and do our job. We park it at the end of the day and it goes back. That started to go away because it was too expensive for the companies to own and maintain all those trucks. And it started sliding into owner operators. So that's why it kind of transitioned without anybody really paying a whole lot of attention. I don't necessarily have a problem with the log trucks parking as long as they're parked in their own property or driveway, but they are on Elm Street, 7th and several other streets. I don't want to, me personally, I don't want to dig myself into that.
Yeah.
But you bring up a good point because they are wide, they are oversized, whether they have a load on or not. If they're piggyback, they're still just as wide and take up, that space. And some of them are parked close to stop signs. So that's a different critter than the motorhome thing, but it's a good point on your part, to look at that. I do believe there's still an ordinance that you're not supposed to have commercial vehicles up in residential areas, period. Unless it's an established truck route or if you're loading or unloading materials for a specific address.
You're absolutely correct. I haven't researched
So,
as to why the
yeah.
signs were removed, but we're talking back in the day.
Yeah,
They got
back in the day.
removed. Because it used to be signs were posted, no log
Right.
trucks loaded or unloaded were allowed.
And everybody knew that they weren't
You got a
supposed to be
good
up there.
point. But yeah, to your point, yeah, they are wide and they go on
Right.
the street, so.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Mr. Mayor, if
I-
I may, go ahead, Counselor.
Oh, no, I was just wondering if there was an umbrella there that we could benefit from.
It-
So-
Actually, what I was going to mention is that Community and Economic Director Larson has, when we talked earlier, located an ordinance that addresses much of what you were talking about. Now, whether that's something that's we want to actually look at and move forward to, I think that's discussions to have.
Of course, that depends. There are cities that have ordinances that specifically say, for example, no parking an RV on public right of way. And one gives an exception for the owner of the adjoining property. The main question of, we can find examples of those. The main question is, where do those stand right now in light of the Ninth Circuit Court rulings and such? And so we'd probably want to keep an eye on what's going on in the legal landscape. But certainly there are other cities that have such ordinances, and we can put together some options for you to look at.
Mr. Mayor, can I ask that, can we have some of those ordinances by next meeting?
Bring them up for us to review.
Yeah, I think
Make that happen.
just because we have a speed issue, we have a public safety issue, and now we have a larger amount of RVs that have no investment in the community on the streets as well, that it's timely to just look at it. And if we can fit something in like.
Regarding the speed issue, we, as a council, we've been bringing that up quite often on the council meetings. And to the defense of the police department, you guys have been very understaffed. And you say you're fully staffed, you have fully staffed right now, but they're technically not fully staffed because you still got to get them through the academy. And correct me if I'm wrong, Chief. They don't have certain capabilities until they get their sign off of the academy, correct?
Correct.
So that it really, when you take away how many people that are in the academy away from how many officers you have right now, it puts it pretty lean. And I hate to say it, so we don't stretch so big that it's hard to get them from point A to point B and keep controls. Now, we obviously know the problem is Mountain View, Elm, Long, Maine. I mean, I've had people going by me on Main Street, 55 and a 25. I mean, and I think to myself, where the heck's the officer? But I understand you guys are very short-handed. So I hopefully one of these days, when everybody gets out of the academy, we can maybe put a strong focus on their speed.
And you're absolutely right. I don't like making excuses, but we are stretched thin. There's still times, most nights after, we end up with one officer on for hours at a time. So we are stretched thin. I don't make excuses. And so this is kind of where we're at.
So, Mr. Mayor, I believe, Chief, in the last report that you gave us, that in the month of July, there were 174 traffic stops in the city. I believe that was the number in your report.
Could have been.
That's quite a few for a month.
Yeah.
So, we still are doing what we can.
Mr. Mayor, if I may, I have a truck driver that parks right next to my house. on Second Avenue at the north side, which is a dead end. And so a person who has one log truck is just that's all he is, an individual, that's all he is. Where's he gonna park that truck if he doesn't park by his house? But if you're right, it's inconvenient because it's pretty hard for him to turn around, but what is one of his options? You know, he's trying to make a living. He's really good about it. He doesn't, move in front of somebody else's vehicles or any of that stuff. He's really good about it. So I don't know what the answer to that is. But where's he gonna park it if he doesn't park it at his home?
So a lot of people do park on their property. And the other thing is as a council, we can look at, that's a business. And we're not anti-cottage businesses. And so we could, we need to do a lot of deep diving on this issue to see what we can do to help people, but at the same time, not be taken advantage of
Yeah.
and meet all the needs of our community.
Well, I agree with you there, but I think can't lose sight of the real problem with the RVs. I think
Yeah.
It is a problem.
Yeah.
No doubt.
Well, and I had noticed several by the high school and they were there for a prolonged period of time and making a mess. So
Okay. Any further on this?
Not, we'll move forward still with recognition of visitors here in the petitions. Ms. Patton, would you like to come forth? Welcome this evening. Give name and address for the record.
Hello, my name's Nancy Patton and I live at 3041 Foothills Drive in Sweet Home. Anyway, good to see everybody. I was going to sound out invitations to you, but I decided to come to your meeting and actually invite you. So I don't know if all of you know, but I've been in business almost 12 years. And it's a thrift store, upscale thrift store, and the ladies sitting back there all work with me. We have a great time. But so there's a couple things I wanted to talk about the speed thing too, but I won't. So I would like to see the council somehow have, when we lived in California, that was a long time ago, 18 years ago, we had neighborhood talks. And, you see, there's not a lot of people here tonight. And I don't think it's that they don't care, but some people are a little intimidated to come into the city hall or, I don't know, sit between you very important people. But if you had like little neighborhood talks, went out to the neighborhoods and see what's on people's mind and what's going on, I think that might help a lot. So rather than all of us trying to say what we want to say on Facebook and getting beat up, by the time you're done with a comment that you only meant to be one way, and by the time it's all over, it's crazy. Anyway, but that's just something I've thought about that I would like to see the council try to do. I know you guys all work hard, you have jobs, you have families, you have everything like I do too, but if there's any way you could just stretch it a little more to try to have maybe community get-togethers. And I would like to see once a year that we have a state of the city. I don't know if you have that.
Been having that kind of at the chamber
Okay.
count wards.
But it's, you would show, slides of where it's at, what's going on. And by the way, I wanted to talk to you. Is your family okay in Hemet?
They're all gone right now. They're all wandering.
Oh. We lived,
That whole area got.
yeah, we lived in Hemet. And so the first time I met Greg, he said, Hemet, how do you, anyway. So I've been thinking about him at the fires going on down there. Anyway, but I just think that we need to have something more where we get more people involved with you guys. I know it's a lot of work. I tell people, if you're not called to be a pastor or in government, don't go near with the 10-foot pole because it's got to be brutal. Some of the things that people go through. But I just think we need to reach out a little more to people. That's just me. I'm involved with a lot of things. I've served on the park board for like 12 years now. Something like that, a long time with Trask. I'm doing pretty good on Trask. Anyway, I really enjoy it. I love everything that's been going on with that. But anyway, so with all that being said, so this month, my business is sponsoring the Chamber Business After Hours and Ladies Night Out. So if you don't want to go to Ladies Night Out, maybe you could come to the Business After Hours. And it's just something that it's a lot of money to put something like this on. But I would like to see some of you, I know really well. Some of you I don't know so well, but it's just, if you could get out more and just be with more people. I'm not offending anybody, right?
No, it's just, it's just something we have to be cognizant about because, for an example, chambers after hours,
Right,
if we have more than three
Oh,
councils show up,
that's true.
that we have, it's a quorum and it causes a problem. So
that's right,
that's why we're cautious of what,
right.
more than three people.
Did you have a pamphlet thing?
I do. I was gonna pass these out too, and I have one for Dylan and Angela not here. So, but anybody have any questions for me? That's all. I just would like to see more involvement in the community, but just step back just for the state of the city. I think that would be really, really, really important. I do want to say, when I lived in Hemet in San Jacinto, they had a joint one. And they made it very casual. They even had couches on the stage. And they passed around like it was like a show, just asking questions from the audience and
Yeah,
stuff.
I can't speak for all the councils, but we are involved in a lot of activities within the community. There's a lot of things that go on. So we
Right.
are out there in the community, different events.
Right,
But for any events such as yours, if more than three councils show up, we have to
Right.
let the city know that you got more than three showing up because there's a quorum and it
right.
causes problems. You have
Yeah.
to publicly get into the newspaper and say, hey, four councils are showing up for an unfair event.
That's right.
So in the State of the Union or whatever, what you want to call it, we usually do that each year after chamber of commerce awards. You do the presentation.
Okay, sounds good.
I appreciate you coming and bringing that up to our
Yeah.
attention. Always helps.
But I appreciate all of you guys. You've done a great job. Thank you for getting us through the blackout. That was interesting, but we all made it.
I didn't have any problem with mine.
Yeah, you're in the avenues, huh? Anyway, but thank you.
Thank you, Nancy. Appreciate it when you do.
Yeah.
Can you just pass these? We'll get-
But thanks again, Nancy. Just for the record, Nancy is very involved in our community. And thank you for all your efforts you do in our community. Involved in a lot of things a lot of the public is not aware of. Thank you. Anybody else would like to come forward to be heard before council before we go on to some presentations?
Greg, can I say something?
Yeah, Mr. Holman, would you like to come forward? Name and address for record, sir.
David Loman, 2230 Main Street, Sweet Home. Was this, Nancy, was this your phone?
Sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought she left her phone. I like what Nancy said about, does law dictate where you need to have your council meetings?
There's Robert, the guy gentleman sitting behind you. He can answer a lot of that question.
Does it state you have to have it in City Hall? Because it would be nice to probably be the first. I'm guessing maybe in America, that once in a while, maybe go out to a certain area of the city, set up some cheers. I bet you would get a lot of people would want to come out and hear you talk about city, laws, ordinances and stuff. And I think the news would blow that up like, wow, a small town, Sweet Home in Oregon, is coming out to the public to have their council meeting for the public to hear. And at that point, the public couldn't say, well, we can't come. Well, you're coming to them at that point. So I like that, and I think that would be a blessing to you guys, maybe to be the first to do something like that. And maybe other areas would see what we're doing. Like, wow, this is great. We're getting the community involved. So thank you, Nancy, for saying that, because that made me think of like, wow, it'd be great if you guys could pick a certain area, like movie in the park, people bring cheers and all that stuff. So go to a certain street, close it out for the night for that meeting, set up some cheers and send out something in the New Era or one of our local newspapers to let people know that we're going to have a council meeting tonight on Elm Street or Ames Creek or something to let people know. And I think the community would be excited because at that point, some people have a hard time getting here because maybe they don't have transportation. But if you came to them, then they really can't say why they can't come. So basically, that's all I wanted to say.
Thank you. Yes, it's a good idea. Duly noted. Anything else that come forth before council? We heard. Please come forth. Good evening.
Good evening. I
Name
moved
and
down here 5 years ago. My name is Janice Studi.
address and name.
I'm sorry, I get a little excited when I get some people. Anyway, I am Janice Studi. I live on 1835 Ames Creek Road. I love this town. And it's been a blessing to my husband and I, because we both are older than dirt. So we're used to the old little towns. I grew up in a town called Linton. It's a logging town. It actually was going to be the capital of Oregon at one point. And I grew up in the house that the people that owned the sawmill built. So we have a real strong history in living in a small town, the small town environment. And it's really crazy on my road, Ames Creek. People drive down that road at 45, 50 miles an hour. It's right down from the school. What happened to the 20 mile an hour when school's in session and 25 when it's residential? It happens daily. It's horrible. My husband and I have to yell out at him all the time. Slow down, slow down, slow down. So, and I would like to put a shout out to Blair for helping me out with a neighbor that has nothing but garbage in its backyard. And it's been addressed finally, and I appreciate that. And I hate to be a bearer of bad news, but my Lord, when you got car parts scattered here and scattered there and old trucks that don't have tires and stuff, that devalues my property. And I just really am appreciative that I got some action. Thank you very much. That's all I have to say, but I would like to see,
No, Blair, he's pretty proactive.
great.
He's a good guy.
But I would like to see,
We have a good code enforcement officer too, and I think.
oh yeah, but I'd like to see a speed trap or something put up on that road. It's ridiculous. It's just ridiculous. They take off at the light. Say, okay, we're the 500. Let's see how fast we can go. You know,
We got a lot of streets in this town and it's an 8,500 racetrack.
why is that?
Well, right now we're shorthanded with our officers and being.
Can I be the speeding officer? I'll do it. I'll do it. I'll get my tickets. That's all.
The sad part about the speeding is they can't be anywhere, everywhere all the time.
Oh, of course not.
And you can turn them in, but you can't get I had two high school kids, I'm assuming they're high school kids, went down my street, which is a dead end. And it's 25 miles an hour and they were
Wow.
flying. I stopped them and guess what they told me? They gave me one of those F signs. And
Yeah.
I thought,
I get that all the time when I come into town. I know it's 35, so I slow down. You ought to see those people fly by me.
oh, yeah. It's not just one spot.
I cringe down Main Street because we got those in the middle of the block crosswalks.
Yeah.
These guys are flying right along and I see people out in the crosswalk and I just close my eye and hope they don't get hit because I see it coming.
I want one more question.
Okay.
There's a green space behind my property. Is that going to be improved to be a walkway or is it just a beautiful green space where my deer come? My little deer come and see me every
How
night.
close are you to the creek?
About 500 yards. You gotta go
So-
up and over.
So, you know.
As you
the
come
city-
down the 18th, it's around that corner.
Yeah, the city limits ends pretty quick there, down where those trucks are all parked. I don't know exactly in that area. Just don't
No,
know.
past the intersection.
Yeah. Oh.
It's up past Mountain View. That's where, oh, I see what you're talking
Oh,
about.
yeah.
Anyway, are they going to improve that into a walkway? I've heard, and I really don't want that. None of us neighbors do.
You know more than anybody. Our board talking about this, so. Nothing's brought up.
It's never been brought up,
Ah,
that I know.
Okay, that was my question. Thank you so much.
We'll start tomorrow. if we want this.
No, leave it the way it is. The deer
There's
come out there and I
no
talk to them every
comment.
night.
Not aware of anything, so.
Huh?
Not aware of anything.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much.
Thanks for coming. Anybody else like to be heard before council? Okay, my government portfolio advisors, I don't think they showed up this evening.
Well, and I'm going to ask Matt are they online and do you know who would be online? Because I have never had contact with them.
I do not believe they are online.
I,
It would be Rashad, or Whitney.
I believe they were to be here in person, and so we may have to push that off till another day.
Sounds good. At this time, I'll let Matt take over.
Well, yeah, I'm here to kind of update you on the finance department where things are. I know we've had a lot of questions and still going through some transitions over in the finance department. So if you recall, I was brought in probably 3 or so months ago, I want to say, to initially just do an initial evaluation of the organizational structure of the finance department. And then as soon as I started, that's when your previous finance director accepted a new position, moved on. And so my scope got a little bit bigger. And I did complete my initial scope of work that I worked on with Christy, your previous city manager or your interim city manager. And I provided her with a written report and recommendations. I've also provided that report to your current interim city manager, Jeff, which I know he's probably reviewed and read because it's great reading material at 11 o'clock at night. It's only like 14, 15 pages, so it's not too long. But I'm here to answer any questions and to give you a general update. So you may or may not have seen that we did post the finance director position. My understanding is that we received 4 or 5 initial applications. I reviewed those initial applications and they all met minimum requirements. So I presented or had Julie, I think it is, send out a list of supplemental questions. And those were 3 or 4, just to kind of get some further details of what their experience is and why they're interested in the position. And we received, out of those 4 or 5 that we sent out, only 2 responded. So I have not had a chance to read through the answers to the supplemental questions. My hope was that we would get 4 or 5 people to respond to those, and then we could have a few people read through them. Your interim city manager, Jeff, potentially 1 or 2 people on the finance team, maybe another person from a department director level, just to kind of read through and see how they feel about people. So with 2 people responding, I know Julie's on vacation and we haven't had a chance to connect and go through those. I guess there may be an opportunity to go out for another round of finance directors positions. Before we had posted the position, I had some conversations with Christy about potentially increasing the salary a little bit. I had just previously, before starting here, had done a salary study of every finance director position at the in the state of Oregon. And so compared the populations and salaries and everything. And I did notice that with cities around the population size of Sweet Home, so I usually go about 4 or 5 cities that are higher, 4 or 5 cities that are lower. Your salary was a little bit low, but it was not anywhere outside the ballpark. Okay. So that would be what I would anticipate a discussion for you and the new city manager, and how you felt comfortable and how she felt comfortable when she came in, if she wanted to do that. As you may or may not know, I used to work at the city of St. Helens. I have now begun working for Eugene 4J School District. So I started there on the 1st. So this was kind of that interim kind of few months when I was still moving stuff back and forth. I came in here about once a week or so just to kind of come in and be in person as much as I could. But now that I'm working for 4J School District, my work is mainly remote. So I'm checking emails at night and doing things. You, at a previous council meeting, approved a contract to work with another contractor for bank reconciliations. So they met with Cindy yesterday. Matthew Apkin was going to be in town to go through that. So I have not connected with him yet today to kind of see how far he got on those reconciliations. You have about 4 or 5 bank accounts that were unreconciled for the entire fiscal year this last year. And so can't start an audit without doing the bank recs. So I've done one of the bank accounts. I can do the other 2 or 3. I should have those done within the next couple weeks, hopefully. And then the idea was that Matthew was going to do the main operating account and get that all up to date, at least until the end of the fiscal year in June. That way we don't hold up your audit, which is scheduled September, October timeframe. So we're still on schedule for that. I know you guys have not had a financial report in quite a while. I am hoping that in October, we will be able to present you where things are at from the previous fiscal year. By then, I'm hoping that all the bank reconciliations will be done. So we'll have a new kind of a final wrap up year to show you where you are at fiscally for the last fiscal year. So I'm happy to answer any questions that I can or anything that you would like me to speak on.
Now, is the auditors coming next meeting?
I don't believe so. Jeff, did you have a conversation with the auditors?
There was a discussion that they were gonna try to make the second meeting in this month.
I've not received any word from them. But Julie may have, so I'd be speaking out of turn. Julie may have had some conversations with him.
I'll follow up tomorrow.
So, and there's, in my report that I've given the city managers, there's a lot of recommendations to improve your processes and to kind of get to best practices. We have not instituted a lot of those because we've been waiting for your new city manager to start. I wouldn't want to restructure or do anything in the department fund-wise or your accounting structure or even your staffing wise right before a new city manager comes in who actually does have finance experience. So she may have a better way of how she would like things to do. So we have kind of held back on making any kind of changes or recommendations that I had just to get her opinion and to work with you about what's going to be best for the city.
I can add a little bit to that real now. Unless something changes, Chelsea will be starting on the 21st.
Okay,
She's already bought a house here in Sweet Home,
great.
so she's starting pretty quick here. So
Great.
for the FYI, the 21st is what I'm understanding.
Okay, and that, I'm sorry,
She'll still be here tomorrow.
the 21st of September? Oh, great. That's
Just
fantastic.
here tomorrow. So I'll follow up on, because I was under the impression the audit was going to be here.
Okay.
So I'll follow up.
Mr. Mayor, if I may, did you have? When you went started looking through things, were there some issues that should have been better handled?
I would say I didn't find any issues as far as things in the wrong accounts or money that wasn't there or anything like that. Where I found the most issues were policies and procedures and best practices that were not followed. And there's nothing wrong or illegal or anything like that. It's like I mentioned, the bank recs. Typically, I would say from experience, your bank reconciliations are maybe 1 or 2 months behind as you're kind of waiting for them to finish and then you do them and you're caught up. It's very rare and definitely not best practice to have an entire year of bank reconciliations not done. Because those, as you know, impact how your cash flow is in the city, how you're paying employees, making sure that you're not investing too much and keeping your liquidity at an appropriate level. So that was a big shock when I came in, and definitely not a best practice and something we're going to hope to get figured out quickly and soon. And like I said, now that your new city manager is going to be starting on the 21st, she'll be able to, because she has that finance experience, she'll be able to jump in a lot faster than maybe some other city managers will be. And we'll be able to help ask questions and guide you on what recommendations she may have for the department.
I have one more question. So what's the process for us to give that audit part that's sent to the auditors? I understand when I called up in Salem that it was supposed to be done on the 30th of December. Is that true? That's when it's supposed to be done.
Yes, technically, you're supposed to have your audit completely done and financial statements prepared by your auditors and sent to the state by the end of the calendar year. There's usually a little leeway, especially with COVID. There was a lot of leniency, even myself in St. Helens, we ended up not finishing our audit till I think it was February or March. And it was, the auditors had everything. They just didn't have the staffing to produce the actual statements and all the GASB statements and requirements that we have to go through. So many people were behind. They send you little warnings. The city of Sweet Home got one of those warnings of, yeah, we're going to withhold revenue from you. And as much as that is a serious letter, it's something that is their process to send out when you get to a certain threshold of a date. We were able to obviously work with your auditors and get everything in time so that you can avoid any kind of penalties or revenue loss or anything like that. And like I said, my hope is that by the end of September, we will have all your make recs done. That's the biggest thing for the auditors so that they can start and review things.
Yeah, we didn't get ours till the end of August. Is that not true? Did we get all the stuff that we needed at the end
Yes,
of
it
August?
was when I came on. So that would have been, yeah, you're correct. End of August would have been when we kind of finally wrapped things up.
And we're halfway through this audit set time. August is 6-7 months or whatever it is.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the way I understood it, when I called the gal up in Salem, they could have held back money.
They very much could
And they
have.
chose not to,
Correct.
and that would have been a disaster for us.
It would have.
So.
Luckily,
that
we
really-
connected the dots between the state and the auditors. They understood that it wasn't the city, so to speak, holding stuff back or waiting. They were producing the financial statements, then they, as an auditing firm, go through their review process, and that takes a week or so with all their other clients. And so we were able to connect the dots and say, hey, we're not purposely trying to leave something on the table here, but here's where we figured it out.
Thank you.
Yep.
So, Mr. Mayor, I have a question. So Matt, when all this is said and done, are we going to have a supplemental budget in order to get things squared away? Because we've done a 22-23 budget, but we don't know if it's right.
Most likely, yes.
Okay.
And if you do a supplemental budget, you will likely have one public hearing and then approve the budget either that same evening or the next meeting. It's not a very cumbersome process to do a supplemental budget, depending on what your type of supplemental budget you have. So there are two ways to do supplemental budgets. There's the resolution process, and then there's a public hearing process. Depending on how much money you move and how much the fund amounts change, that determines whether you have to have a public hearing
Right.
or you don't. So if we don't end up having to move a lot of money around or reconfigure this or do that, then it could just be a simple resolution that you approve at a council meeting. The most extreme would be you have a public hearing, you hear public comments. Obviously, myself or your finance director or the city manager will be able to explain and go through all the differences for you. And then it's just a matter of entering that new budget into your financial system.
Okay, thank you.
Any questions of council?
I'm glad you came.
Yes, and I'm sorry, this is the first time we've actually seen each other in person. Now that it's not a 2-hour drive for me, it's only about an hour drive. It makes it a little easier for me to come and be present at these meetings. And if that's needed in the future, we can definitely make that work. So, and I'm in daily,
Appreciate your time.
yeah, I'm in daily contact with your staff and especially Cindy and all the other clerks there, and your department directors. They just have to get used to getting emails at 9 or 10 o'clock at night.
Thanks, Matt, for all the work
Yeah.
you've done.
Yep, absolutely.
Appreciate you coming. Nothing under old business, new business, RCA, resolution number 30 for 2022, Harvest Festival Road Closure Approval.
Hey, Mayor, as you're aware, the Harvest Festival is coming up October 1st. Everyone come. It'll be great. Part of that event is just in the interest of a smooth event and a safe environment. We are asking to close a portion of 14th Avenue for the duration of that event. It's that requires a resolution passed by the council. Essentially, residents would still be allowed through. They'd be notified beforehand by letter. All the affected homes would be notified, and they'd still be able to access their properties. It's just the through traffic and the access by other folks that they would have to go elsewhere. So this is what we've done in the past. We're just coming to ask you again if we can close down that street for this event. So I'm happy to take any questions you have for recommending passage of the resolution.
This event is the first Saturday in October. It's a great event. Any questions of the council?
If you haven't been there, you need to go. It's pretty big. It's amazing, actually. Even with the crazy time that we can only have 10 people in one spot or something, it was really good then too. And the staff did a really good job. Really good job messing around with that, because they don't have 2 kids in the playground thing, and people were very good about it, but it's a pretty big deal, and it's getting bigger. So anyway.
Any questions of the council? Council Director.
So moved as recommended.
I second it.
Motion second by roll call, please.
Counselor Gorley,
Yes.
Counselor Coleman,
Yes.
Counselor Trask,
Yes.
Mayor Muller,
Yes.
Counselor Gerson.
Yes.
The record showing 5 ayes, no nays, 2 absent. Approval of resolution number 30 for 2022. Next up, RC8, liquor license application, Midway Market change of ownership.
Let me get to it real quick. Well, as you know, that any change of ownership on a liquor license application comes before council through via OLCC. And so the Midway Market is changing ownership. And here we are. The new owner is, you know what, Captain Ogden, here you go.
Good delegation there,
Yeah.
Chief.
Nice move.
New owner is Raj Agasti. He's applied for an off-premises liquor license, and the location is the Midway Market at 3239 Highway 20 in Sweet Home. As you are familiar with, we are tasked with reviewing these applications for the liquor licenses within our city. And as with any change of ownership, the new owner must apply for a liquor license through the Oregon Liquor Control Commission under their name. And so this new owner, Raj, has applied for this off-premises liquor license, and this particular license allows beer and wine to be sold off-premises consumption only. This type of license is appropriate for this kind of business. So we received the investigation on August 30th and conducted that. I did it. And I contacted Raj, and he basically said that the business is going to maintain its existing methods of operation. OLCC was also contacted, and I learned that they have no concerns over the change of ownership. So everything's basically staying the same. So based upon my investigation, I found no reason to recommend a denial to the Sweet Home City Council. So the stakeholders involved are the Midway Market, a liquor license and the ability to sell beer and wine as part of a convenience store business. And the citizens and community here in Sweet Home. Midway Market creates additional opportunities and choices for the community. Issues and financial impacts. So a denial of this OLCC liquor license would have a negative impact on sales for Midway Market. And there are no known or anticipated financial impacts for the Sweet Home Police Department or the City of Sweet Home. So you have basically 3 options in front of you. 1 is to do nothing. 2 is to direct further investigation prior to city's recommendation. And then 3 would be to make a motion that the City of Sweet Home recommends an OLCC license be granted to the Midway Market. recommendation, staff recommends option 3 to make a motion that the city of Sweet Home recommends an OLCC license be granted to the Midway Market.
Questions of council?
I'll argue the only difference is they're gonna have wine. Is that not true? They don't serve wine now, do they?
Well, I don't know if they're specifically going to be serving wine, but that is part of that license. So they may or may not.
No further questions. Council Director.
Mr. Mayor, I move to approve.
I'll second that.
Motion second by roll call, please.
Counselor Gerson,
Yes.
Mayor Mueller,
Yes.
Counselor Trask.
Yes.
Counselor Coleman,
Yes.
Counselor Gordy,
Yes.
Let the record show 5 ayes, no nays, 2 absent. Approval of liquor license for Midway Market change of ownership. Next up, RCA, county foreclosure on real property city has liens on.
Mr. Mayor, if I may, the city attorney shall tackle this one.
Just basically, this is before you. It's just to put it in perspective, it's a very rare thing. Most of the time, these things come out. Sometimes we get some notices through the city every once in a while, but usually people pick up the taxes before the sale or before the property is deeded. This one I checked tonight and still hadn't been paid. However, the way the numbers figure out and everything, I found out that there is a mortgage on the property of approximately $80-some thousand. So I'm assuming, and I know that they're aware of it because I've talked with them, that they will pick up the taxes that are owed. I don't know that, but I would assume they would be, because if everything is done according to Hoyle, the county will terminate their mortgage if they deed it back to them. So there may be ways around that or whatever, but in general, that's what everybody's looking at. In our particular case, as the RCA says, there's about $10,500 owed on the taxes that need to be brought current, so that it goes off of this deeding process. And the city has about $26,000 in liens, $6,200 from an SDC. The original of that SDC, so you know, it was about 2,100, I believe. And then the rehab loan, it doesn't accrue interest by its very nature, and it's $19,826. So I guess the property on the Lynn County schedules is around $200,000, valued at real market value. If you've been by there or went by there, even in today's market, I'd say that was high. But anyway, that gives you an idea. But I guess I'm saying that if you don't mind a special meeting like on the 21st, or we've got to honor before the 22nd before we make up your mind. If you don't want to make a decision tonight, you can, we can have a special meeting on the 21st or something like that, close to the time, to decide whether you want to spend the $10,500 that it takes to cure, and then that would just basically become, according to law, just basically be added on to the liens that you already have. I think by that time, the mortgage company will decide to pay, would be my educated opinion on that. Because they've got like $80,000 or more into it already. So it's something that's going to happen on the 22nd if somebody doesn't do something, but I think it'll be handled by the mortgage company. If you don't want to make a decision tonight, you just want to wait, maybe have a special meeting, or if you want to talk about it and do something, make a decision tonight, whether you want to direct staff to not pay it right now, but have the ability to pay it if that comes to that. Or like I said, the original of the 6,200 is 2,100. The original, the rehab loan, of course, is tax money, but it's federal or state.
Now, this is a new one for me.
Yeah, it's all,
not been
it's the only one that I've had.
the only one I've ever had,
Yeah.
so this is a new one.
Yeah.
I'll leave it up to the council. Any questions of council? I kind of have my opinion about it.
So, Mr. Mayor, so, so if I understand this, you're proposing that we pay $10,500 in back taxes in order to preserve about $26,000.
Correct. That's why. I
Right? Is
kept-
that what you're asking?
Yeah, that's very.
So if we pay that property tax, we still don't have any control over the property though, right? We're just,
You would have to do a foreclosure proceeding and so.
all right, the city would then become
Yeah,
the
yeah.
real estate person, right? Dealing
Right.
with
I
all
under-
the
I
other
understand,
stuff.
But that's how, you're correct. There'd be a procedure to try to collect your money.
But if we don't do this and it goes into foreclosure, then
No.
we lose the
Correct.
26,000?
If it's already been through the foreclosure process, it's in the redemption process of 2 years, and that's coming to an end. At the end of that time, the county deeds the property over to themselves and cuts out everybody else.
Yeah.
It isn't like if they were, it's not like a mortgage that your bank forecloses on. If they foreclose on you in a regular mortgage, then they go out and resell it at a public auction. They take their money, but if there's 100,000 left over, they don't get to take it. It goes back to the owner who just lost his property. A lot of times that doesn't happen because there aren't two bidders there, and the first bidder is the bank, and they bid in all of their costs, their fees, and their debt. And they may be the only bidder there. And therefore they just get the property back for that and in total. But if there's two bidders there, then it may move up above the level of what's owed to the bank in a regular foreclosure, and that extra could go back to the owner. But in a foreclosure that runs through the tax and the county, it's done. It's theirs. You don't get it back except at the other end when they sell the property. You get it's my understanding, you get your percentage of the pie. You know, whatever the city's percentage of the pie would be, which doesn't come to that amount.
That's great. So, Robert, we'd lose our liens on the property, and did you say it was $20,000?
It's 26,000.
Yeah. so-
Yeah, the original of just to tell you, the original of the 62, I think, is like a 21. That's what the original SDC was.
This is interesting.
Yeah, and like I said, in finding out all this, in finding out different information and checking into it, I believe that you can just wait and see, and if we have to have a special meeting, you'll have been introduced to the subject and already, and it won't be such a surprise, and then you'll be able to make a decision on it. And I believe that the mortgage company, the bank, will pay the taxes to save their own mortgage.
And the liens? That all
They won't pay the liens right now. They'll just pay the taxes off so they don't lose their mortgage.
Right.
That's what I think will happen.
And that's by the 22nd?
Yeah, it's got to be done by the 22nd, the county says, or it's going to be deeded over to them.
There's a special meeting.
Huh?
Okay, that's a special meeting.
I'll just keep you advised, and if we need one, we can have one.
We have a hand in the audience. I will go ahead and allow it.
Where's the property I'm trying to follow.
It's at 1320 Tamarack Street. It's a little house, a little lot down on Tamarack Street.
I'm open just to wait for having a meeting.
Yeah, I think I'd be on that too. We just need a consensus for that then, or?
That'd be fine. I understand.
I think let's just push it off to.
Okay, that's fine.
That'd be on the 21st, our next.
Yeah.
council meeting.
Yeah, something like that.
27th, the next county, 21st, 27th.
No, they're gonna deed it back. Their literature says if the taxes aren't paid on or before the 22nd.
Well, we have to have a special meeting.
Right,
before.
next week. It'd be next week.
Our next council is 27th.
Right, I understand. I understand.
Okay, moving on, RCA for out-of-state travel request.
Jeff's letting me talk. So I am requesting to travel to Missoula at the end of this month. We have been selected to be a focus library for the Library Journal Design Institute in Missoula. This gives us some free mini hours with an architect and then with a focus group at the conference to come up with designs for a potential new building. We do not need to have a site selected. We do not need to have any of that done. This would be there, but it is something that we could then use publicity going further along in the design process without having to hire architects for this portion. So the cost that I've budgeted would be about $600 for me to go. The conference is free for being part of it. And then it's just airfare out of Eugene and then one night of travel. So.
You can do that for 600?
Yep.
You flying in your Cessna 120, whatever it is?
Pretty much.
She's not eating.
There's no snacks or nothing?
No, they feed you. Actually, the whole day that I'm there, they feed you.
Oh, my God.
That's pretty cheap.
Well, I think she should go.
Mr. Mayor, I think this is a huge opportunity, and I know that Megan is being very humble that they've been chosen. This is a great opportunity for our library.
Any directive?
So moved.
I second it.
Second by roll call, please.
Counselor Gerson,
Yes.
Mayor Muller,
Yes.
Counselor Trask,
Yes.
Counselor Coleman,
Yes.
Counselor Gorley,
Yes.
Let the record show you have 5 ayes, no nays, 2 absent. Approval of the out-of-state travel request. Travel safe.
Megan, have you put money out toward that, for those various things in your budget for the travel?
Yeah, travel is
Yeah.
included.
Yeah, sometimes
For conference
we
travel.
don't do enough of that. I mean, good, that's good.
Now moving on to ordinance bills before I go into RCA ordinance number 6 for 2022. I'm going to go ahead and open up a public hearing at 7:40. And I will start off. This is regards to ordinance number 6. So open it up for the staff. Staff report first.
This is for annexation and zone change application AXZC 22-01, consisting of a 3.97 acre property located at 1118 47th Avenue in Sweet Home, Oregon. This is as I said, the application is for an annexation. The subject property is located within the city's urban growth boundary, and annexation would bring the subject property into the city limits. The Planning Commission considered this matter at their September 1st, 2022 meeting. The provisions of our code do not require that this annexation be submitted to the electors of the city for their approval or rejection. It just requires that the Planning Commission hold a public hearing, which they did, and they made a recommendation to the City Council to approve the annexation. And then tonight is the public hearing on this matter. Notice of both public hearings was published in the New Era newspaper on July 20th, 2022 and August 31st, 2022. And notice of the public hearing was posted in various city locations. We followed all of our codes requirements. As I mentioned, the Planning Commission reviewed the application and recommended passage to the City Council. The subject property is contiguous to the city limits of Sweet Home to the south, and to the north. The north property line borders Kalmaya Street, which is within the jurisdiction of the city of Sweet Home. However, the southern portion of the property is located in Lynn County. There matters, the comprehensive plan map designation of the subject property is low density residential. All the goals and policies of the comprehensive plan are fulfilled through this process. And the engineering department provided comments. The subject property is currently served by city sewer, but not water at this time. The development of the property would be up to the property owner to extend those lines. So the applicant is here tonight. Essentially, the reason this application is necessary is that the well for the property is drying up and our septic system is failing. And so due to close proximity with city limits, Lynn County will not allow her to replace her septic system. There is a sewer line in the nearby street, and so just connecting a service line essentially would take care of it. And at tonight's meeting, this is the public hearing for that. She's here and able to answer questions if you have any questions of the applicant. And if you approve the application, first off, after the public hearing, it's up to you to approve or reject the application. If you approve the application, we would also need to hold the first reading of the associated ordinance. And because the applicant is requesting this be expedited, we're requesting that if the vote is unanimous in the first reading, that we also hold a second reading tonight as well, so that it can be effective as soon as possible. And that's the staff report. I'm happy to take any questions.
Any questions of council? Okay. So at this time, I need to ask council, any conflict of interest, sparking information or any personal bias?
No.
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 This time, testimony of those in favor or support of the application. Come forward.
That street's dead end, isn't it? Is it dead, 47? Isn't it?
It
dead end?
ends at my house.
Oh, you're the last house?
Yes.
Just name and address for record.
Okay. My name is Catherine E. Thrash, and my address is 1118 47th Avenue here in Sweet Home.
Welcome.
Thank you. Basically, you've heard the facts that I can't update my sewer system because of my adjoining to the city limits on 3 sides, actually 4 sides of my property. When the report says that the south side of my property is in the county, that's kind of misleading because it's only about 70 feet on one side and about 100 feet there out of 4 acres. So the whole property is basically, it is in the urban growth boundary and it borders the city almost entirely. So it's kind of painful to have to go through so many hoops to get sewer and water, but the sewer is available. There's a manhole cover very close to the property. And the water is going to be a little more challenging because I have to run it, I think, 400 and some feet. And that would require a 4-inch main. So there is water available and installed on the lower piece because part of this property is actually in the city. It's the lower 0.97 acres. And so there is a possibility that once the upper part, being the whole piece, the 3.97 acres, is in to the city by annexation, I can use the existing water that's tapped in at the bottom of the property. I can run that to the house until there's enough development in the area, or I have enough money to run a 4-inch main the entire length of 47th from Kalmaya all the way to my house. So this is for water and sewer for my house. It's not a plan to develop and divide it down to 8,000 square foot lots or anything like that. It's just to provide my residents with services.
It just hit me. Did you used to work for the city?
Yes. Police
I know.
department,
It's-
ambulance
it's taken
division.
about 20 minutes here to get that through my head. But, I have one question. Does it require 500? It's 400 some feet away.
The fire hydrant is at the intersection of Calamai and 47th, which is 300.
But isn't there a rule or something? You have to have one every 400 feet or
I think
something?
she's talking about extending from our system through her property. And that if this property was gonna have multiple or more
Okay.
development, they would have to extend that. I think you already have water, sewers there, the manhole's already there, there's a hydrant at the end of the street.
Correct.
And listen, I don't,
Had that criteria.
I can't see one reason not to do this.
You still got a process.
Oh, yeah.
Can I say another thing?
Go ahead.
I have approached the city about moving my driveway, which currently at Calamaya Street, it deviates onto my property and runs up to my house. I've approached them to put the driveway over on the city right of way, which is 47th Avenue, which is currently grass. During that process, I had to go to the fire department and they told me I had to have a 100-foot turnaround that would accommodate the ladder truck. And so there's some logistics if I want to move my driveway over there. But at this point, it is grass and gravel. And to extend the water line is not going to require digging up City Street, that brand new street they just put in. So the cost is lower because it's not paved. And it's also going to be much easier to do. The same goes with the sewer. From the manhole cover over is the only thing that would be dug up that's paved is my actual turnaround driveway. So there's no disruption to the city street per se.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Yeah. This time we'll have testimony of those in opposition of the application. Okay, testimony of those in either support or opposition. This time, 7:52, I will close the public hearing. This time, open up for council deliberation. Anything council wants to bring up? It's now time. I need a council directive. So choose.
So moved as recommended.
Second.
Motion second, by roll call, please.
Yes.
Mayor Mueller,
Yes.
Counselor Trask,
Yes.
Counselor Coleman,
Yes.
Counselor Gordley,
Yes.
Try to show there 5 ayes, no nays, 2 absent, approval of
That's number 6, 2022. But this time.
Correction, that's to approve the application.
Approve the application, I'm sorry. Approve the application to move forward now to the ordinance number 6 for reading.
Okay. Ordinance Bill number 6 for 2022, ordinance number blank, an ordinance annexing territory within the urban growth boundary and amending the official zoning map and declaring a need for an expediency clause. Whereas the applicant Catherine E. Thrash applied for annexation and zone change application AXZC 22-01 and requested a zone map change for an area consisting of 174,896 square feet, 3.97 acres, located at 1118 47th Avenue, Sweet Home, Oregon 97386. The Sweet Home zoning map is proposed to change from Lynn County's urban growth area farm forest zone to the city of Sweet Home's low density R1 zone. The subject property is identified on the Lynn County Assessor's map as 13S01E33D tax lot 03800. And whereas the Planning Commission of the City of Sweet Home held a public hearing on September 1st, 2022, with due notice of such a public hearing having been given and provided an opportunity for public comments and testimony. Planning Commission deliberated at their September 1st, 2022 2022 meeting and recommended that the city council approve this application. And whereas the city council held a public hearing on this matter on September 13th, 2022, with due notice of such public hearing having been given and provided an opportunity for public comments and testimony. The city council approved this application by motion at their September 13th, 2022 meeting. And whereas the proposed annexation in R1 zoning is needed to connect the subject property to city water and sewer services. Now, therefore, the city of Sweet Home does ordain as follows. Section 1, the city of Sweet Home adopts the findings of fact in support of annexation and zone change application AXDC 22-01 included as Exhibit A. Section 2, the city of Sweet Home amends the official zoning map identified in SHMC 17.20.020 as a city zoning map, including all subsequent amendments for an area consisting of 174,896 square feet, 3.97 acres, located at 1118 47th Avenue, Sweet Home, Oregon, 97386, and identified on the Lynn County Assessor's Map as 13S01E33D, tax lot 03800. The official zoning map shall be amended from Lynn County's urban growth area farm forest zone to the city of Sweet Home's low density residential R1 zone for the subject property as shown on Exhibit B. Section 3, expediency clause. Whereas there is a possibility of a failed septic system, it is in the best interests of the residents of the city to complete the annexation of the subject property in an expedient manner. It is hereby adjudged and declared that an emergency exists and existing conditions are such that this ordinance is needed to be immediately enforced upon its passage. Therefore, this ordinance shall take effect and be in full force and effect from and after its passage and approval. Passed by the council and approved by the mayor this blank day of blank 2022. Blank mayor, attest, blank city manager, ex officio city recorder.
Any questions of council? Need council directed to move forth second reading.
So moved.
Second.
Motion second by roll call, please.
Counselor Gerson,
Yes.
Mayor Muller,
Yes.
Counselor Trask.
Yes.
Counselor Coleman.
Yes.
Counselor Gordley.
Yes.
Show 5 ayes, no nays, 2 absent. Approval of moving this forward second reading tonight by title only.
Ordinance bill number 6 for 2022, ordinance number blank, and an ordinance annexing territory within the urban growth boundary and amending the official zoning map and declaring a need for an expediency clause.
Any questions of council? Okay, council directed to move this for third and final reading by title only on next council meeting.
So moved.
Second.
On second, roll call, please.
Counselor Gordley.
Yes.
Counselor Coleman.
Yes.
Counselor Trask.
Yes.
Mayor Muller.
Yes.
Counselor Gerson.
Yes.
By show of 5 ayes, no nays, 2 absent. Approval of this moving to the third and final reading on the council meeting on September 27th. Next up is second reading ordinance number 5 for 2022 by title only.
Ordinance bill number 5 for 2022, ordinance number blank, Sweet Home ordinance repealing SHMC Title 16, 17, and portions of Title 15, replacing them with a new development code and adopting amendments to the comprehensive plan map, and zoning map.
Any questions of council? Council directed.
So moved.
Second.
Motion second, by roll call, please.
Counselor Trask.
Yes.
Counselor Coleman.
Yes.
Counselor Gordley.
Yes.
Mayor Muller.
Yes.
Counselor Gerson.
Yes.
Directed show 5 ayes, no nays, 2 absent. Approval of moving this to third and final reading on council meeting of September 27th. Our reports to committees.
Well, Mr. Mayor, Bob Dalton and I went to SK the other day before the fire. And we looked at a building to replace the old building that was torn down at Sankey Clark. This business is owned by a husband and wife. And they gave us a couple of options, ones that I think one of them was 18 by 30. And they gave us a price. It was lower than I thought it would be, but it's like 54,000. And then there's another one for 30 by 40, which is 74,000, which we thought it would be a better size for us. And Bob is really good at this. So he's going to start looking at putting some grants together or having somebody helping get grants together to see if we can get some cash and some money from the state or whoever, and get some people to give us some money from inside the city limits too. So I'm pretty pleased about that part of it. And we can save money by bringing it ourselves. because it's pretty big. And then we can also paint it ourselves with some stuff that's pretty good. So that's going to be coming up before us before long. It'll probably be a couple months, maybe first of the year or something. So anyway, I just thought I'd let you know, we went and looked and it looks pretty good.
Any other committee report?
Our library director is going to Montana. Did I already say that? I'm excited.
Nothing else? So move on to mayor's report. I want to commend our city staff, police department and our public works. Did a phenomenal job, very proactive during the city's blackout and what we went through. American Red Cross was on standby, emergency proclamation was ready to go. Anything from the cooling stations, generators, I take was installed and that's all. City manager's report.
We actually stole most of my thunder. I was really good. You know, the event that we just went through, fortunately, it had minimum impact on our community, but really it was kind of, in my mind, a great test or a warm up for what could potentially happen in the future. And I really have to take my hat off to all of the department heads that were involved. They did an amazing job. Public Works Director, he was the acting incident commander for this event. He did outstanding. Megan did assume some of the role of the PIO for the city, so it was much appreciated. And Blair and Captain Ogden were also heavily involved in all of the planning phases. And if you wish, Greg is available to give kind of some notes or a quick spiel, hopefully, on what we learned from this, because I think there was some good and some bad, or some issues that we need to tackle in the near future, because I think we all, through our discussions, feel that this is going to be kind of commonplace. I don't feel this is going to be an anomaly, that more and more of these are going to be coming our direction. And so if council desires, we get a brief rundown.
Yeah, just real briefly, everybody worked extremely well. School district, fire department, ODF. We had Lynn Shuttle here. Everybody worked. I know I'm missing somebody, but we all worked very well together. We all had one common goal, it was to get through the event. I think from a city standpoint, this is going to be this is going to be something we're going to be kind of the norm for the future. And it was a great test. We learned about our water treatment plant and what our generator can and can't do that we don't have, and what our needs are. We called up an electrical contractor in Lebanon who's been working at our wastewater plant when we have issues in our water plant. They were able to right away, because we knew things were going to happen before the word was even out. We were able to get our hands on a generator for this building, a generator for our bypass station at the water treatment plant, and then a larger one for the water treatment plant itself. We already had one at the wastewater plant, so we felt confident that that would operate without any issues. So what we learned with the water treatment plant, that it was designed only to run one train under emergency condition. And so there's only so much power that can go in. So when we talk about a generator for that down the road, what is there available to that we could squeeze through our energy is only about 200 volt or 200 amp, excuse me. So we were able to get a 200 amp generator. We plugged it in. It had never been tested that we know of in 13 years. We were a little nervous, but it worked well. We were able to get number one train up and running, and that's how it is by design. That's all we can operate when we're under backup power. It hooked up here to as intended and construction, and it fired up with our transfer switch here, so everything worked well here. Some recommendations, I think, are we're going to be, Jason and I are going to be talking about our communications tower. We lost power up there a couple times due to heat and also the generator running. So there's some improvements that we want to make there. That is the comm system for PD and also for Public Works. Another thing that we found out, that our communications for all of our reservoirs, after we filled them, when the power went out, our backup battery only lasts 6 hours. So after that, our comms went down. We couldn't see our reservoirs anymore. So those are things that we're going to need to work on. I think we need to look at, I think we need to look at the Jim Riggs Center. I think what Pac Power did and brought that resource center to our park, we can do this in our center, have plenty of parking. I met with Dawn today. I know she's looking at some grants. It could be a great benefit to the city of Sweet Home if we really look at that center. What also did is that it's got to look at this big chunk of metal out back. We were thinking we could put it here or put it at the water plant. It is huge. But there may be an opportunity for us to put that in at the water plant and run conduit and do both structures. And we are actually evaluating that right now. That generator is way too big for this building. We could potentially use it temporarily, which we're planning as we're doing construction up at the wastewater plant. But I'm hoping I can come back and give you some good news about that generator. We only paid about $50,000, but it's not going to work for this building. And I obviously believe it's too big for the Jim Riggs Center. So probably more that we need to have on this conversation, because this is going to be the new norm. We're going to get into emergency situations. People are going to be without power for a period of time. And this is given that everything goes without a hitch. If we have one more thing that comes in there, fire, a whatever, it could really put us in a bad situation. So I think this is a good exercise for us. I think we'll have a lot more discussions from it. And we're going to learn some things from it. But I think this is our opportunity to think and act. So.
Well, Mr. Mayor, there's some history with a blackout in our city many years ago. I was still employed. I don't use that four-letter word. So it was totally gone. There was 3 places in the city, and correct me if I'm wrong, you guys have a generator? CenturyLink had one, and so did the fire district. And this town was black. There was nothing on. And I don't know how they did the water plant. I don't know how they did it. I was, yeah, so anyway, it could be really ugly pretty fast.
We were concerned. We put the notice out just outside use, just to maintain the distance, how long our reservoirs can feed if we had to shut that plant off. So we put the notice out. We actually made 1.9 million gallons that day. That's the most we've ever made. The next day it was 0.6. It was a little bit more in line to winter use. But so when we got that number the next morning, we were hoping that people would conserve a little bit more, but it kind of happened on its own. I would have. Do your laundry, something. Fill your bathtub. There you go.
Well, I think you guys did a great job. I was here when you guys got the news, and I was impressed by how quickly you could gather and start planning. And I'm just grateful that we can count on all of you.
And one more shout out. I do want to shout out to Tommy Roby. He was on call during that, and he just stepped up and worked hard. And then Stephen Haney, he took the bull by the horns. He got electrical engineers. He got them out here. He called the president, and they had 2 people sitting here at 6 a.m. the next day. So I just appreciate his. Yep, absolutely. Yeah.
And we'd be remiss if we didn't recognize the school district as well. They were here every step of the way. One of the issues that we have that we've struggled with, and hopefully we can deal with it this year, is a fuel station. Fuel is very important to all emergency services, but specifically the fire department and the ambulance usage. So the school district stepped up, rewired their fuel tanks so that they could utilize emergency generator on them so that it was available to the fire department. So kudos to the school district for being that partner with us.
Well, I think the fuel station is something we definitely need to address, but also the generators. I think sooner than later, we need some generators.
At least that one. Like the water plant. We need to get
We're
that.
coming on fall, winter, who knows?
We already asked Jimco, the ones that did all this for us and very familiar, we're asking for a quote to kind of get that baseline of what it would cost material wise. It doesn't sound like it might not be a lot of work inside to get that path opened up for everything to work. It sounds like it's all contained within that box. Of course, I'm a water guy. I'm not a waste or not an electrical guy. But it sounds like it could be done. So I'll hold my enthusiasm until I get that quote, but we'll definitely have that discussion when it comes.
I also think we would be remiss not to acknowledge that through the last crisis and this crisis, that when I called my mayor to see what was going on and how we were doing. It was, he just knew it all and had been on the phone all day. And nobody says thank you for that work. And it's not like you're getting rich doing this job and putting in a lot of hours. And I just want to make sure that that's acknowledged.
You just made the big bucks.
Yep.
Yeah.
Department directors reports. Anything for the directors?
So, Mr. Mayor, if I may. So Greg, first of all, thank you for that report that I asked for. I really appreciate that.
It is a fluid report. Anything you guys would like to see, any explanations, this will be every month ongoing. You'll see there's a section in there that talks about things that are going to be coming up to you. You
Right.
need to pay attention to those. Those are when we're going to come and interact with you on certain topics like purchasing a generator, pre-purchasing, and some electrical equipment in the upcoming meetings. We potentially want to do some sole source to get that purchased for the project. Long lead times. So take a look at those. You guys have any questions? You want to see any changes? The document is definitely fluid. So.
Well, I know there's a lot of other things you'd rather be doing, but I really appreciate it very much.
You're welcome. Thank you.
The second thing I wanted to ask you about was you mentioned the renovation for the city hall, talking about the renovation. I think it would behoove us to add in the front doors, the automatic accessible openers. Those doors are very heavy and they're not really accessible for people in a wheelchair.
Okay.
So when we're thinking about the renovation, I think we need to add those to those two doors.
Excellent. That's going to be a matter of budget. So we're working right now on an RFP that will address all the work that will be a part of that project so that we can advertise out. Well, I would love to see that happen, and it's going to come down to a matter of priority of what we can do for the money.
Well, I guess for me, it's a priority.
What I mean by priority, first priority being the generator itself.
Well, yes.
And then the second priority being the
Yeah.
other.
I'm just saying, when we're talking about putting together a budget for a renovation, I'd like that included in the discussion, please.
As long as we can afford it for what we have in the budget.
Thank you.
A quick question for you, Greg. For the ODOT doing all the sidewalks through town, do we have a say on the quality of work that they're doing? Yeah, say it all.
And I heard that there's not spec plans. It's all based on like footages, like of how they go. And they have a basic design, but it's up to the contractor and how it's met. We don't have any say in that. It's strictly an ODOT standard. And only thing that we have say is kind of some of our specs for our water systems, things that we're being asked to relocate, like meters and hydrants and things like that. But it's been very minimal. And I haven't heard a lot of good things from my staff. So.
Well, the one concern, and I've seen a couple of places, and I can record down the actual locations for you. The one that's really concerning for me is First Avenue and Highway 20. I'd like to know why they took a ramp made out of pavement. It looks tacky, and it's also blocking your water flow of your street.
I heard that in Osage as well. I don't know.
Osage was another one. but
Yeah.
There's another one in town. I see it in 3 different locations where they've just put a patch of a ramp of pavement.
I don't know this for fact, but I don't think they were right after they were constructed. So there's some additional work that has to be. I definitely know at Osage. And I believe it's the same discussion right there in front of the ODOT building.
The
On that.
water flow in the gutter.
Well, I think it's not right. Like the way that, and also if you look at it, you see the one like sidewalk coming in, you've got this curb that's sitting, 6-8 inches higher than that?
Yeah.
So there's something going on with that, and I don't know exactly what I'm not involved with it. But what I'm hearing is that there's some corrections that have to occur on both of those.
Okay.
So unless you know anything, yeah.
I just think we should, as a city, have some say in the quality of workmanship. It is our city.
Well, I had noticed on the handicap ramps as you go out to 28, the curb goes right up to it and then a sharp corner. And if somebody's in a wheelchair, you would think that it would be rounded off. so that they don't have to line up and turn. It was just really weird to me that they didn't take that in consideration. And I'm not an expert.
I had two complaints. One of them was that you're talking about. So on the end of my street, and it's not the only street, I'm just using this as an example. They've got those places that are not concrete, they're open. Are they gonna put flowers in there? And if that's what's happening, are they gonna come and fix them, clean this up for them? I don't know what those are.
I've seen them going back. A good example is Clark Mill and the main street where you've got the edges and they've concreted some rocks in there so people aren't driving over them, laying on them, whatever their specs are. As I understand it, there was one business owner that made a strong argument to put flowers in theirs, but I believe they're going to be filling those, as I understand it. Probably with what you see on Clark Mill and Main Street.
Yeah.
Mr. Mayor, I was concerned about the Osage thing. I have a rear wheel car and you hit that water because Clover Park is constantly, draining.
There's springs underneath all that.
Right,
there.
exactly. And so when the rains come, it's going to be even more because I know what happens there. And then it freezes when it gets cold. So it's a pretty good flow even now when we haven't had much water yet. So
I was hearing they're supposed to be done by November. I think they're a little behind and possibly over budget, maybe I've heard. I'm not sure. But they're supposed to be done through November. Whether that's true or not, I'm not
They
100%.
tore Osage and then they tore it out.
Yeah.
But I mean, I don't know what they're doing that.
They're having to redesign it. That's what I heard. And I think it's pretty much the same thing as it didn't mesh when they did the one right there at First Street and right at ODOT. And so those two are being reworked. And I believe the one at Osage is being completely redesigned where everything else was designed on site. There was a spec and I don't understand it, but it was all inspected by a foot like torpedo measure. And then if it met any specs, it had to be tore out. And it's been a difficult process for Wild Dishes, I understand.
Yeah, I have another one. There's a couple that live on 42nd Avenue and Highway 20. And he has a motorhome in that property. And they put the stop sign so he can't get it off his property. I went and talked to the ODOT guy. He said, we can't make him do anything. He said, I asked him and he said, nope, we don't have any say. They just do whatever they want to do. So I don't know how the guy's ever going to get it out of there, but anyway, it's some kind of crazy.
I flexed my muscle when we started talking about some of the agreements and moving hydrants and how far they wanted to move them and how quickly they wanted it done. And I didn't feel that they gave us enough advanced warning for a city like Sweet Home or any small town. And so I kind of voiced my opinion in that meeting and you can tell they really didn't care.
No.
And they would tell you that they don't care. So
They make it pretty clear.
they did.
Yeah, tell us what to do.
Yeah. They're here, they're a partner with us, but it is their highway. It runs through the center of our town. And unfortunately, our utilities lay in their highway. And so they get to tell us what we do. Yeah.
Well, hopefully we can have some say in some of these tacky locations. I think with the water flowing, what I'm talking about, that's you're gonna have problems. That's just temporary.
Yeah, and it may be that when they're done, we go back and address it to them. If we've got water issues, and we can address, extending a catch basin because we had to move a water line because they were putting in catch basins, right? So if they haven't adequately done their job for their highway, then we can have that discussion.
Thanks, Greg.
Yeah.
Mr. Mayor, I have another question on a different topic, but for Mr. Spingman. I had a question regarding the smell and do we have an estimated time on how that will come about? And is this just a one-time occurrence that we just build up to, or is there,
So-
happened before?
We believe that we were dumped on. We go back and look, Stephen completed the monthly report, which did not look good. So about a day or two prior to the August 9th, when we got that high flow, we started seeing a change in our chemistry and started seeing some numbers start rising a little bit. And then when we got that flow in, the next day, everything was dead. We had no bug life. We've been building bug life since then. We've been adding 5 pounds a day. We're not adding it anymore. We started adding one chemical product that helped with settling and also odors. It wasn't doing what we wanted, so we went to a product called ferric chloride, and it's basically a liquid iron with a pH. It helps lock up odors, but it also, because it's iron, it grabs onto the waste of the molecule and then creates weight to it to help it settle better. The idea is once those bugs die, we want to be able to, they don't settle, they'll just float. And then basically it's going out the river, causing us to violate and going over the weirs. So we needed to get that down and get it out of the plant. But let's look at it this way. If you have a swimming pool, or let's just say a 14-foot round, 4 feet deep, and you take a bucket of water and you throw it in every day, and you have a little bit of solids in it, and you take a bucket out and you throw it out on the other side. And then that day you throw in another bucket and then you take that bucket out. It takes time to get that bacteria life in that plant changed over. First couple of weeks, I have to apologize to some of the residential people that live around here and even up in the avenues. It was horrid. It was bad. It was bad at the plant. It was bad in the avenues. Stevens and the staff have had their hands full. We've been in communication with DEQ daily. You've seen some of those reports and some of the testing we've done. We've been inviting them all along to come out and walk through us and go to the plant. They finally came out Friday during our emergency. And so once I got done with my UC, I went out there and did a full 2-hour tour with them. They gave us a letter or an email back today recommending some additional monitoring and some things. Our plan for our operations plan for the wastewater plant was last updated when it was constructed in 94 or 74, and then wasn't even updated in 94. So we're probably going to have to update our plan. We were hoping that we're not going to update our operations plan till we get a brand new plant. There's no sense creating a new plan that we're going to operate for a year, but we're going to have to go ahead and update that. I think they want to see that. They may recommend we need more staff. That's something they've done since I've been here. I've heard that on many different reports. So right now we haven't been fine. They're working with us. The plant is turning around. The odors have improved. We're getting good settling. We are monitoring the DO. If our DO drops again, then we'll start taking samples and send them out to the lab, and we're prepared to do so. To run a full gamut on everything could be as costly as much as $4,000. So when I send it, I want to make sure that we've got a representative sample. But right now the plant's doing better. It's turning around. I'm sure people that live around town have noticed that it's probably been better, and it keeps turning in that direction. We got good bug life right now. We'll wait and see. If it happens again, then I would imagine DEQ is going to be back, and I'm going to be knocking on some doors possibly. And let's hope that maybe the education that we got out in the last couple of weeks might be good enough to really, so people understand that we need to coexist in this town as we're going to operate this plant. So that's kind of where I'm at right now.
So the influx hasn't happened again, just the two
We've
times?
had short periods of high flow, but for short periods, but we haven't had a kill off since then. So.
Things we're talking on. When we did the Samaritan thing out there last Thursday or whatever, DeFazio's helper was there, and I had a chance to talk to her about the $30 million that they offered to us. And I told her, I said, that's really a great thing for you to do, but I said, we can't pay you back. We don't have $1.1 million or $2 million or whatever it is to pay you back. I mean, it'd be nice if we could get a grant for it instead of that. She was very nice about it. And I don't know where he's at. He's taking a nap somewhere or whatever he's doing, but they're kind of back there. But anyway, I think I'll try to go down and meet with her, and maybe he'll be there. I don't know what they'll do, if they can do, if they will do. That's the big deal.
Any further? Any further directors? Okay. Finance director, got anything else, Matt? Appreciate you coming again, and thanks for everything you do. Police chief.
Nothing for me.
City attorney. Council business good order.
Mr. Mayor, Showcase is having a reception for the gallery show Friday morning, 10 to 11:30. Take your coffee break, coffee and donuts. So the public's invited. So I hope you all show up, meet the artist.
I have something as well, Mr. Mayor, if I may.
Go ahead.
So recently, it was an awkward conversation I had with somebody from the community. They wanted me to censor a fellow counselor And then I ran over the council code of ethics and the council's rules that we set up. So the code of ethics was voted on in 1998. And then in 2018, you all remember that we voted on some rules. So I was going to read through that, but I was hoping that the rest of the council would be here. And I'm not going to name any names, but and I'm not going to say who it was about. But these are really important rules that we govern ourselves. Because nobody else governs us but just us. And so if you guys don't mind, I think I'll briefly go over some of these rules that we're supposed to be abiding by. So counselors shall preserve order and decorum during city council meetings and shall not, by conversation or other action, delay or interrupt the proceedings or refuse to obey the orders of the chairperson. Counselors shall, when addressing staff or members of the public, confine themselves to questions or issues then under discussion, shall not engage in personal attacks, shall not impugn the motives of any speaker, and shall at all times, while in session or otherwise, conduct themselves in a manner appropriate to the dignity of their office. It goes on to give some more details, but I'll probably review those later. But I just want to encourage each of us to make sure we're guarding everybody's dignity that we run into, whether it's fellow counselors or staff people or community members, that we make sure that we are speaking well of each other and that we are a good example in our community on how to interact and behave with each other, that we uphold decorum. So thanks.
Hey, Benny. How's it going? How you doing?
That's a long meeting.
Yeah, it was. It wasn't supposed to.
I expected 8:30.
Did you? Okay. Well, that's good. That's not too bad. Oh,